My dear friend, my name is Clarabelle Monroe. I am 81 years old, born in the quiet countryside of Missouri, raised on a farm where the cornfields touch the sky, and now living somewhere I never imagined I would end up at this age. I will not start by telling you that my life is perfect, because the truth is far from that. I am here today to share a story that still shakes me when I think about it. A story about my own daughter. Yes, the same child I carried, fed, protected, prayed over, and loved for decades. Before I go any deeper, let me speak to you directly. My dear friend watching this screen, if you love emotional and powerful stories that touch the heart, go on and press that subscribe button. Like this video so more people can join us. And do not forget to turn on your notifications so you never miss another story like this. Also, please drop a comment telling me where in the country you are watching from. I want to know who is sitting with me today. Are you from the East Coast, the Midwest, the South, or maybe from a small town like the one I came from? Let me know. Now, let me take you into the moment that changed my world. I was standing in my daughter's kitchen on a cool Sunday morning. The sun was barely up, touching the windows with soft gold. I could smell the faint scent of vanilla from the candle she always kept burning. I was wearing my old blue cardigan, the one with the missing button, and wiping down the kitchen counter like I had every morning since I moved in with her. I thought I was helping. I thought I was easing her load. I thought I was still useful. That was the same morning my daughter, my only child, looked at me with a coldness I had never seen in her eyes. She crossed her arms, leaned against the refrigerator, and said the words that sliced me deeper than any knife ever could. If you are not going to work for me, then you cannot stay here anymore. I am not keeping you for free. You either help me run this house exactly the way I tell you, or you go. My dear friend, I wish I were joking. I wish I were exaggerating for the sake of a good story. But I am not. That is exactly what she said. Now let me pause here for a moment and ask you something. If it was you standing in your daughter's kitchen after raising her with everything you had, how would you feel hearing those words? What would you do? Would you argue? Would you cry? Would you pack your bags quietly and leave? I want you to think about that as I tell you the rest. Because in that moment, I felt something inside me break and something else awaken. A kind of shaking realization that maybe, just maybe, I had made mistakes in the way I loved her. Mistakes that made her believe she could treat me that way. Mistakes that now I will share with you so you never fall into the same trap. My daughter's name is Arletta. Uncommon, strong-sounding, and when she was little, she used to be the softest person you could ever meet. She would pick wildflowers from the field and place them on my kitchen table. She would hold my hand when we walked down the road to church. She used to cry whenever she thought I was sad. That same child, now in her 50s, looked at me like I was a burden she did not ask for. But this story, my dear friend, is not one that starts with anger. It starts with something far deeper. My past decisions, my quiet sacrifices, the things I hid, the things Arletta never understood because I never explained. And that painful moment in the kitchen was only the spark that lit a fire I could no longer put out. I stood there trembling, my hands still holding the damp cloth I was using to clean. I remember looking down at the water drops sliding across the counter. They looked like tears. Mine, maybe, or maybe the tears I would later shed. I tried to speak, but my voice felt small, like a child being scolded. I said softly, "I thought I was helping you." Arletta shook her head like I had inconvenienced her with my breath. "Helping? Mama, I need more than dishwashing. I need someone who can keep my house going. Someone who can watch the kids when I am at work. Someone who can cook dinner before I come home. You are living here for free. I expect you to earn it." Her voice echoed in the room, bouncing against the cabinets, filling every corner of my heart with a cold that froze me in place. Now, my dear friend, I know times are different. I know families today are not like they used to be. People are busy. People are tired. But hearing your own child speak to you like you are a bill they cannot afford is a different kind of pain, a kind you do not forget. I tried to remind her of everything I had done for her growing up. The long nights working double shifts so she could stay in school. The winters when I walked miles to work because the truck broke down. The days when I went hungry so she could eat. But she cut me off before I could finish. That was your choice, Mama. I did not ask for that. Something snapped inside me then. Not anger, not rage, but a sudden, sharp understanding that this was not just about chores or helping. Something had changed in her long before that morning. Something I had not noticed. Something that had been growing quietly in her heart. And that, my dear friend, is where our story truly begins. I want you to stay with me because what you are about to hear will make you rethink everything you believe about family, loyalty, and what we owe one another. It will make you question people in your own life. And trust me, you will want to hold your loved ones a little closer after this. But before we move into the next chapter, let me leave you with this cliffhanger. Because as I stood in that kitchen, my daughter expecting me to obey her or leave, something happened behind me. A sound, a voice, a truth that neither of us was prepared for. And that moment changed everything. My dear friend, before I tell you what happened after that cold Sunday morning, I want you to take a deep breath with me. Because what unfolded next was not just surprising. It was the kind of moment that splits your life into before and after. When my daughter Arletta gave me that ultimatum, the air in that kitchen felt thick, almost like the house itself was holding its breath. But then, something unexpected happened behind me. It was a voice, a small, trembling voice that did not belong to me or to Arletta. "Grandma, please do not go." I turned slowly, my heart already softening because I knew that voice. It was from the smallest person in the house. My grandson, little Harlan, stood by the doorway holding his stuffed dinosaur by the tail. His eyes were full of fear, like he was watching something break that he did not know how to fix. He was only 7 years old, but in that moment, his heart was older than both mine and his mother's combined. Arletta rolled her eyes when she saw him, not with concern, not with guilt, but with annoyance. "Harlan, go back upstairs. This is grown-up talk." But Harlan shook his head so hard his curls bounced. "No, Grandma helped me with my homework. Grandma makes me feel safe. Grandma is the only one who talks to me after school. You cannot make her leave." My dear friend, do you know what it feels like when a child becomes your shield? When the smallest person in the room is the only one brave enough to defend you. It feels like someone places your heart in their tiny hands and holds it with more care than any adult ever has. I looked at my grandson and tried to smile, but inside my chest, my heart was twisting. I wanted to hug him, to protect him, to tell him everything would be all right, but I did not know if that was true anymore. Arletta snapped, "Harlan, I said go upstairs now." Her voice sliced the air. He stepped closer to me instead. "Grandma, do not leave me here." Those words hit me harder than her mother's threat, because there was something hidden inside those words, something he was too young to explain, something I had noticed in pieces but never fully understood. The quiet sadness in his eyes. The way he clung to me whenever I picked him up from school. The dark circles under her husband's eyes. The tension that hung in this house like old dust. There were cracks here, my dear friend. Cracks I had been too caught up in guilt and gratitude to see. When I placed my hand on Harlan's shoulder, my daughter exploded. "That is enough. Mama, you need to stop making him cling to you. You are making him soft. You are making everything harder. If you stay here, you will follow my rules. If not, you can leave right now." Right now. Like I was a worker on probation. Like I was some stranger she picked off the street. Let me pause here and ask you again, my dear friend watching me from your home, what would you do if your own daughter talked to you this way? Would you argue? Would you pack your bags? Would you stand your ground? These are questions many elders hope they never have to answer, yet more of us face this than you think. But before I could speak, another voice filled the room. This one deeper, worn, exhausted. It belonged to her husband, my son-in-law, Pierce. Please stop yelling. Everyone can hear you. I turned and saw him standing near the hallway. He was still in his work uniform from the night shift. His shoulders were slumped, and he looked like a man who had carried too many burdens for too long. He looked at Arletta with a kind of tired sorrow, and then he looked at me with something close to apology. Arletta snapped, "Stay out of this, Pierce. My mother is not going to live here like a guest. She needs to contribute." Contribute. That word stung. Pierce rubbed his forehead and said softly, "She is 81. She is your mother. She helps already." But Arletta stomped her foot like she was still 10 years old. Helping, wiping counters is not helping. Watching the kids is not helping. I need real support. I need order. I need someone who will take care of things so I can work and relax. I am tired too. Why am I the only one doing everything? My dear friend, that was the first time I realized something important. This was not just about chores. This was not even about me. My daughter was breaking inside, and she was spilling her broken pieces on everyone around her. But that did not excuse her cruelty. I stepped forward, gently moving Harlan behind me, and I looked my daughter in the eyes. She was shaking, not with rage, but with something deeper, a mixture of resentment and exhaustion, a storm she had been carrying silently for years. "Arletta," I said quietly, "when did you start feeling this angry with me?" She blinked like I had spoken in a language she did not understand. "Do not turn this around on me, Mama. You chose to move in here. You said you were going to help. You said you wanted to be useful. And now I am just asking for what you promised." My dear friend, let me tell you something I learned at 81. Sometimes people hide their wounds behind anger. Sometimes the ones you love push you away not because they hate you, but because they are drowning and do not know how to ask for help. But I also learned this. Being someone's mother does not mean you must let them break you. Now you might be wondering how I came to live with my daughter in the first place. That is a story I will share in another chapter. A story filled with long nights, loneliness, and a truth I had hidden for years. But what mattered in that kitchen was this moment. Because everything was about to change. Pierce finally walked over and said, "Arletta, enough. If your mother leaves this house, I am leaving with her, and I am taking the kids with me." The room froze. My daughter's face went pale. My grandson gasped. I felt weak in my knees. Pierce looked at me then, with eyes full of something heartbreaking. "Mrs. Monroe, I cannot let you go out on your own. I know things have been rough here. I know you do more than you get credit for, and I know you deserve better." Arletta exploded. "You would choose her over me, your wife." But Pierce remained calm. "I am choosing what is right." And that was when something inside my daughter shattered. She sank into a chair, covered her face with her hands, and began to cry the kind of cry that comes from a soul that has been hurting for too long, but never said a word. And my dear friend, that is where I will leave you today. Because what my daughter confessed next, what she revealed through her tears, what she had been hiding for years, was something none of us expected, and it would change all of our lives forever. My dear friend, thank you for staying with me. What came next in that kitchen was heavier than anything I had prepared myself for. When my daughter Arletta broke down, it was not soft crying. It was the kind of sobbing that shakes the table, the kind that makes a grown woman look like a child again. Her shoulders trembled as her hands covered her face, and for a moment none of us moved. Not me, not Pierce. Not little Harlan, who clung to my cardigan like he was afraid the whole house might fall apart. I stood there frozen, my heart twisting. You have to understand something, my dear friend. When you see your adult child cry like that, the part of you that remembers holding them as a baby jumps awake. That mother instinct never dies, no matter how old they get, no matter how much they hurt you. But I was scared too, because I knew those tears were not just from anger. They were coming from something deeper, something that had been living inside her, unspoken, for years. Pierce knelt beside her chair carefully. Arletta, talk to us. Tell us what is really going on. But she shook her head hard. No, you will all think I am selfish. You will think I am a bad mother, a bad daughter, a failure. Those words stabbed me, not because she said them, but because she believed them. My dear friend, when a person starts believing they are a failure, their actions become desperate. Their voice becomes sharp. Their heart becomes heavy. And sometimes they hurt the ones they love most without meaning to. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. My voice was soft but steady. Arletta, you are my daughter. Nothing you say will make me stop loving you. But I need to understand why you have been carrying all this anger. When did it start? What made you feel this way? She lowered her hands slowly, like her arms weighed 1,000 pounds. And when she looked up at me, her eyes were swollen, her cheeks red, her soul exposed in a way I had not seen since she was 13 years old and afraid of disappointing me. Mama, she whispered, I never wanted you to move in with us. The words hit me like a slap, not because they were cruel, but because they were honest, painfully honest. Pierce whispered, Arletta. But she shook her head again. No, I have to say it. Mama deserves to know. I felt my throat tighten, but I kept my voice steady. Then why did you let me? Why did you tell me it was all right? She let out a shaky breath. Because I did not know how to tell you no. I did not want you to be alone. I felt guilty. And I thought maybe having you here would help me. Maybe it would fix things. Fix what? I asked. She looked down at her trembling hands. My marriage, my life, my exhaustion, everything. My dear friend, that was the moment I realized my daughter had not invited me into her home out of warmth, but out of fear and desperation. And when someone acts from fear instead of love, the consequences can tear a house apart. Arletta took another deep breath and finally spoke the truth she had been hiding. I am drowning, Mama. Every single day I wake up tired. I go to work tired. I come home tired. The kids need me. Pierce needs me. My job needs me. This house needs me. And I thought if you lived here, you would take some of that weight off. But instead I feel like I am failing even more. She covered her face again and cried into her palms, her voice muffled. I feel like everyone expects something from me, and I do not know how to say I am tired. Pierce's face softened. Arletta, we never asked you to carry everything alone. She shook her head. Yes, you did. All of you did, and I let it happen. My dear friend, hearing this felt like someone had placed a stone on my chest, because she was right about one thing. I had assumed that moving in with her was helping her. I never asked if she needed me. I never asked what she felt. I simply believed my presence was enough. Sometimes, even as parents, we forget our grown children have hearts that bruise, plans that fail, dreams that crack, and expectations they cannot meet. But then she said something that nearly broke me. Mama, when you came here, I thought maybe I would finally get help, but instead I felt watched, judged. I felt like a little girl again who could not do anything right. And every time I saw you cleaning or cooking or stepping in, I felt like you were reminding me of all the things I was not doing. It made me angry, angry at you, angry at myself, angry at everyone. I swallowed hard. That was never my intention, child. She nodded weakly. I know, but it still hurt, and I did not know how to talk about it without sounding ungrateful, so I kept everything inside until it exploded. My dear friend, you see how pain works. It sits, it grows, it spreads, and eventually it bursts out at the wrong person in the wrong way at the wrong time. As I sat there listening, something inside me cracked open too, because suddenly I remembered something from long ago, something I had done that might have planted a seed of resentment in her heart. Something she did not know I remembered. Something I had kept quiet for decades. Something that might explain everything. I looked her in the eyes and said, Arletta, is this really just about the present? Or is this about what happened when you were 16? Her whole body froze. Pierce straightened. What happened when she was 16? And my daughter's face drained of all color. She whispered, Mama, please, do not say it. But it was too late. The past had returned, and it was time for the truth to come out. My dear friend, if you are still with me, I want you to hold my hand through this part of the journey, because the truth I am about to share is not easy for any mother to say out loud. It is the kind of memory that hides in the corners of your mind, waiting for a moment like this to rise again and remind you of the weight you once carried, and the weight you placed on others without realizing it. When I brought up what happened when my daughter Arletta was 16, the entire kitchen fell silent. The kind of silence where even the clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. Pierce stared at both of us, confused. Harlan held onto my arm tighter, and Arletta looked at me with a fear I had not seen in her face since she was a teenager standing on the porch with tears running down her cheeks. Mama, please, she whispered, not that. But sometimes, my dear friend, healing cannot begin until the truth steps out of the shadows. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a moment, and let the memory pull me back in time. It was late autumn, the year Arletta turned 16. The air was cold enough to make the leaves crunch under our boots. Back then, we lived in a small town south of Kansas City, in a little white house with peeling paint and a porch that creaked when you walked across it. Life was not easy. Bills were late more often than not. I was working 2 jobs, and I was tired, my dear friend. Tired in a way that makes a mother's patience thin like old fabric. Arletta was a bright girl, full of dreams I did not understand. She wanted to leave the small town someday, go to college, be a nurse, maybe even a doctor. Her eyes sparkled every time she talked about it. But we had a problem that year. Her grades slipped. Not terribly, not dangerously, just enough for teachers to start calling, enough for reminders to come home in envelopes, enough to add pressure onto a life already bursting at the seams. One night after working a double shift at the diner, I came home exhausted. My feet were burning, my back felt like fire, and there was a note from school on the kitchen table. Missing assignments, incomplete tests falling behind. I remember holding that paper in my hands and feeling like the world was closing in on me. And instead of asking my daughter what was wrong, I yelled. My voice was sharp, too loud, full of my own stress, not her mistakes. I shouted words I never meant, words I regretted the moment they left my mouth. I told her she was lazy. I told her she was ungrateful. I told her I worked too hard for her to throw her life away. I told her she was ruining everything. That night, she packed a small bag and ran out the door. I will never forget the sound of that door slamming. It was the sound of a heart breaking. Maybe hers, maybe mine, maybe both. I chased after her, calling her name into the dark, but she kept running, down the street, past the old oak tree, past the church. She ran until I could not see her anymore, until the night swallowed her up like a secret. She came home the next morning, cold, tired, and quiet. She had slept in the shed behind the community center, I wrapped her in blankets, fed her eggs and toast, and cried until my tears dried on her shoulder. I apologized over and over. I told her I never meant a word of what I had said. I told her I was sorry for my anger, my stress, my exhaustion. But here is the painful truth, my dear friend. Apologies can be spoken, but wounds do not always heal just because you say sorry. That night left a mark on her, a deep one. And while I tried to pretend everything returned to normal, the truth is a small part of her heart closed that day. A part that never fully opened again. A part she carried into adulthood, motherhood, and into that very kitchen where she now sat crying. When I opened my eyes, I saw tears running down my daughter's face. She whispered, "Mama, that night changed me. You do not know how much. I felt like you stopped believing in me, like I disappointed you so deeply that nothing I did afterward mattered. I worked so hard to prove myself, harder than anyone ever knew. And when I grew up, I kept pushing myself even when my body begged me to stop. I pushed through motherhood. I pushed through marriage. I pushed through work. I pushed through life." She took a shaky breath. "And when you moved in, Mama, those feelings came back. I kept remembering that 16-year-old girl who felt like she was never enough for you. It made me angry. It made me defensive. It made me push you away before you could judge me again." My heart sank, deep, deep down. I looked at her and whispered, "Arletta, I never stopped believing in you, not even for 1 minute. I was tired. I was overwhelmed. I made mistakes. But I loved you then. I love you now. You were never a failure to me. You were my whole world." She shook her head like she wanted to believe me, but the hurt inside her was too old, too tangled. Pierce reached for her hand and asked softly, "Why did you never tell me?" She whispered, "Because I did not want to sound weak. I did not want to be the wife who breaks down. I did not want to be the mother who admits she cannot handle everything. And when Mama moved in, everything inside me just cracked open again." I put my hand on her shoulder gently. "My child, pain buried alive always finds a way to come back up. I should have talked to you long ago. I should have asked what you carried in your heart. I should have helped you heal instead of letting time pretend to fix what it never fixed." My dear friend, it was then I realized something important. This was no longer a story about disrespect, or chores, or me being treated like a free employee. It was a story about a wound in my daughter's heart that had been waiting decades for the right moment to be acknowledged. But just when I thought the atmosphere might soften, something else happened. Something that pulled every one of us back into the present. Something that made the old wound look small compared to the new problem rising up. Something that none of us expected. Because the truth my daughter revealed next was not about the past. It was about right now. About her job, her marriage, her mental state, her fears, her secrets. And the next thing she said made my blood run cold. "Mama, there is something else I need to tell you. Something I have been hiding. Something that might change everything again. If you are still here holding onto this story with me, then prepare yourself. Because what my daughter said next did not just surprise me. It broke something inside me, and at the same time opened a doorway into a truth I never imagined she was carrying." Arletta wiped her face with the back of her trembling hand. Her breathing was uneven. Her voice was cracking. And when she finally looked up at me, her eyes were filled with a fear I had not seen even when she was 16. "Mama, I am losing everything." Those 4 words made my heart drop straight into my stomach. Pierce stiffened beside her. "Losing what?" he asked. She swallowed hard. "My job, our house, my mind, everything." The room went still. Even little Harlan stopped fidgeting, as if he sensed something heavy was about to be spoken. I leaned forward, trying to steady my own voice. "Child, what do you mean?" She let out a painful, shaky whisper. I am about to get fired." Pierce jerked his head up. "Fired? Why did you not tell me?" "Because," she cried, "I thought I could fix it before anyone found out." She buried her face in her hands again. "Mama, for months now I have been falling behind at work. Missing deadlines, making mistakes, getting warnings. I am so tired all the time. I cannot focus. I cannot remember things. I have been showing up late, leaving early, breaking down in the bathroom. And last week, my supervisor told me one more mistake and I am gone." Pierce whispered, "Oh God." My daughter shook her head. "You do not understand. If I lose my job, we lose the house. We lose everything. And that is why I needed help, Mama, not just housework. I needed emotional help, mental help, someone to take some weight off so I did not collapse." Her voice cracked again. "But the more help I needed, the more ashamed I felt. And the more ashamed I felt, the angrier I became at you. My dear friend, have you ever watched a loved one break down and suddenly understand every sharp word they ever threw at you? It is like watching a storm finally explain why it destroyed the field. Pain does not always look like sadness. Sometimes it looks like anger. Sometimes it looks like cruelty." I reached for her hand slowly, gently. "Arletta, you are not alone. You should have told me this. We could have faced it together." She shook her head, still crying. "No, Mama, you do not understand. There is more." Pierce whispered more. Her lips trembled. "I have been hiding bills, debt, notices, collection letters. I did not want you to think I was a failure." "Oh, my dear friend," those words cut deeper than any blade. I felt tears rise in my own eyes. "Child, I never needed perfection from you. Only honesty, only love." She pressed her hand to her forehead like she was holding back the weight of the world. "Mama, I did not want you to move in with us because I was afraid you would see how bad things actually were. I thought you would judge me, or pity me, or think I was irresponsible. I was embarrassed. So embarrassed that I started pushing everyone away before they could see the truth." Pierce sank into the chair beside her, stunned. "Arletta, why did you not tell me?" "Because," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I did not want to be another burden. Not to you, not to Mama, not to anyone. I felt like I was holding this entire house up by myself, and if one person leaned on me, everything would collapse." My dear friend, there it was. The truth behind her anger. The truth behind her harsh words. The truth behind her demand that I work like a free employee. She was not trying to control me. She was trying to stop her own life from falling apart. But then she said something that chilled my entire body. "And Mama, there is something else I have not told anyone, something I am scared to even say out loud." Her voice lowered to a whisper, so small I almost did not hear it. "Sometimes I think about running away again, like I did when I was 16, walking out the door and not coming back, leaving everything behind because I feel like I cannot breathe anymore." The room froze. My heart stopped. Pierce reached for her face with both hands. "Arletta, no, do not say that. Do not even think that." She began shaking, tears pouring down harder now. "I do not want to feel this way. I love my kids. I love you. I love Mama. But I feel trapped, tired, lost, like I am disappearing one piece at a time. And every time I look around this house, all I see is what I am failing at." My dear friend, I knew then that this story was not just about disrespect, not just about a daughter treating her mother poorly. It was about generational wounds, exhaustion, broken dreams, and a woman drowning silently while pretending to be strong. I took her face in my hands gently, like I used to when she was small. "My child, listen to me. This family is not something you have to carry alone. We carry each other. You are not weak. You are overwhelmed. You are not a failure. You are human, and we will fix this together." But before I could say anything else, something happened behind us. A sudden noise. A knock. Then the front door opening. Someone had arrived. Someone who was not supposed to be there. And the moment that person stepped into the house, everything changed again. Hold on to your heart now, because what happened next in that small, tense kitchen was something none of us were prepared for. The front door opened slowly, almost too quietly, like the person entering the house already knew they were stepping into danger. At first, none of us moved. Arletta froze mid-breath. Pierce straightened in his chair. Little Harlan hid behind me. And I felt my body stiffen as footsteps came closer down the hallway. Then the person walked in. It was my oldest granddaughter, 19-year-old Soren. And the look in her eyes told me she had heard far more than she should have. She stood in the doorway, holding her backpack, her hair pulled into a messy bun, her face red from the cold outside. But what struck me most was the fear in her eyes. Not fear for herself, fear for her mother. "Mama," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Is it true, everything I just heard?" Arletta's breath caught in her throat. "Soren, how long have you been listening?" "Long enough," she said. "Long enough to know you have been hurting and you did not tell me. Long enough to know we might lose the house. Long enough to know you feel like running away." Her voice shook as she said the last part. Arletta covered her mouth with both hands, horrified. "Soren, baby, no, I did not want you to hear that." But Soren stepped farther into the room, tears building in her eyes. "Why not? Why hide everything from me, Mama? Why pretend everything is fine when it is not?" "My dear friend, let me tell you something about teenagers. They act tough. They roll their eyes. They slam doors. But their hearts, oh, their hearts hold more love than they ever say. And when someone they love is hurting, they feel it like a bruise under the skin." Pierce stood up slowly. "Soren, let us explain." But she lifted her hand sharply. "No, I need to hear it from Mom." Arletta wiped her tears, but more kept falling. "I am sorry, Soren. I am so sorry. I wanted to protect you from this. I wanted you to focus on school, on your future, not on my mistakes." But Soren shook her head. "Protect me? Mama, hiding everything from me does not protect me. It scares me more. I see you crying in the bathroom. I see how tired you are. I see how you fight with Dad. I see everything, even when you think I don't." Arletta broke down again. "I didn't mean for you to carry my pain." And Soren whispered something I will never forget. "I am already carrying it. I just thought you did not want me to help." My dear friend, that sentence hit us all like a wave. Because children, even older ones, feel the cracks in a home long before adults admit they are there. I stepped toward Soren slowly. "Sweetheart, your mother has been hurting for a long time. She did not want you to feel responsible for fixing her pain." But Soren's eyes hardened with a quiet, heartbreaking truth. I already felt responsible. Every time she was sad, every time she forgot something, every time she looked tired. I kept wondering what I could do to help you, and now I find out that everything was falling apart and nobody told me anything. She turned to her mother. "Mama, why didn't you trust me?" Arletta's voice cracked, because I did not trust myself. Then Soren did something that stunned us all. She dropped her backpack on the floor, rushed to her mother, and wrapped her arms tightly around her. Arletta collapsed into her daughter's embrace, sobbing into her shoulder like she had been holding those tears for years. I watched them with a mixture of sorrow and awe. 2 generations clinging to each other in a way they had not done in a very long time. But just when I thought the moment might bring healing, something shifted. Soren pulled back, wiped her tears, and looked straight at me. "Grandma, is it true? Did Mama really threaten to kick you out?" The question sliced through the air. Arletta's eyes widened. Soren, please do not bring that up. But Soren shook her head. No, if we are going to talk about what is real, then everything needs to be real. I heard you. You told Grandma she had to work like an employee or leave. Why, Mama? Why would you say something like that to her? Arletta started shaking again. I did not mean it the way it sounded. But Soren snapped with a pain that had clearly been sitting in her for a long time. Yes, you did. You have been cruel lately. To Grandma, to Dad, to me, to everyone. And now I finally know why. But it still hurt us, Mama. It hurt all of us. Arletta dropped her gaze, ashamed. Pierce tried to speak, but Soren stopped him with a quiet, trembling voice. Dad, please, let Mom talk. Then she turned back to Arletta. Mama, are you sorry because you feel guilty? Or because you finally see you were hurting the wrong people? My dear friend, that question hung in the room like smoke. Because it was true. Cruelty born from pain is still cruelty. And sometimes the people who love us the most bleed quietly under our words. Arletta finally whispered, I am sorry because I was wrong. I was scared. And I took it out on the people who love me most. I thought I was holding everything together, but I was falling apart and dragging all of you with me. Soren nodded slowly, but her voice was still firm. Then you have to let us help you now. No more secrets. No more pretending. No more pushing everyone away. If you want us to trust you, you have to trust us too. And for the first time in a long time, my daughter nodded with true humility. Okay, I will try. But just as the room softened, just as I thought we might finally be stepping toward healing, the unexpected happened again. Soren turned toward me with hesitation on her face. Grandma, there is something I have to tell you too. I froze. Her voice shook. Something you need to know. Something Mama does not know either. Arletta's head snapped up. Soren, what are you talking about? But Soren's next words made my breath catch in my throat. Grandma, I have been hiding something from you. Something about myself. And it might make everything even worse. Take a deep breath with me, because what Soren confessed next was something none of us, not even Arletta, expected. The room grew so quiet that I swear we could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Soren's hands shook as she wiped her face, her breathing unsteady, as if she was gathering courage from air that simply wasn't there. Grandma, she said softly, I have been hiding something for months, and I need you to hear it before anything else in this family falls apart. Arletta grabbed her daughter's wrist. Soren, you are scaring me. What is going on? Soren pulled her hand away gently, not out of disrespect, but out of pain. Mama, please let me talk. Just this once without stopping me. Arletta froze. Pierce held his breath. Harlan peeked from behind me, confused, clutching my sweater sleeve like it was the last safe thing in the room. Then Soren said it. Grandma, I dropped out of college 2 months ago. My dear friend. If you could have seen Arletta's face. Her jaw fell open. Her body jerked like someone had splashed cold water on her. Her hands shook uncontrollably. It was not anger that hit her first. It was fear. Dropped out, Arletta's voice cracked, thin and fragile. Soren, what do you mean you dropped out? You were doing fine. You were getting good grades. You said everything was good. Soren swallowed hard. I did not want you to worry even more. You were already so stressed about Dad, about money, about work, about everything. I knew if you found out I was struggling, it would break you. Arletta stepped back like the floor moved under her. Break me? Baby, I was already breaking and you thought I needed more lies. Soren cried harder now. Grandma, I did not want to disappoint anyone. I was failing 2 classes. I wasn't sleeping. I felt like I was drowning every day. And then something happened that made it all worse. She looked at me with eyes full of fear. Grandma, I am not the only one who has been treated like an employee in this house. Arletta's head snapped toward her daughter. What does that mean? Soren wiped her tears, her voice trembling. It means Dad did not just push you, Mama. He pushed me too. He kept telling me to work extra shifts at my part-time job, to pick up more hours, to help pay bills. He said I was grown enough and that this family needed me. And I did it. I worked until I got sick. I worked until I stopped going to class. I worked until I felt like I had no life left at all. Arletta clutched her chest. Pierce, is this true? Pierce's face went gray. Arletta, we needed money, and Soren said she could handle it. Handle it? Arletta's voice rose, raw, wounded. She is a teenager. She is our child. You forced her to choose between work and her future. Soren looked down. He never yelled. He never made me do anything. But he made me feel guilty if I didn't, like I was selfish if I wanted to rest, or study, or be normal. My dear friend, guilt is a quiet weapon. It does not break bones, but it breaks hearts. And it had broken Soren's. Arletta's eyes filled with a rage I had not seen in years. Pierce, we talked about helping her, not using her. How could you? Pierce rubbed his forehead, ashamed. I thought I was helping. I thought she wanted to contribute. She did want to help, I whispered gently. But wanting to help is not the same as being pushed too far. Suddenly, Soren stepped toward me again, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Grandma, that is not even the hardest part. There is more. Arletta whispered, almost afraid, more. Soren nodded. Her lips trembled. Her fingers twisted together nervously. Grandma, the real reason I dropped out is because of something that happened on campus. Something I was too scared to tell anyone. My heart stopped. The room felt colder. Heavier. Still. Arletta shook her head slowly. No, please tell me you were not hurt. Tell me nobody touched you. Tell me nobody did anything. Soren interrupted softly. Nobody hurt me like that. But something did happen. Something that scared me so much I could not stay there anymore. She took a shaky breath. There was a fire in my dorm building one night, a small one. They said it was contained. They said everyone got out, but I was on the same floor and the alarms did not go off. I woke up because I smelled smoke. I ran outside barefoot, and from that day on I could not sleep. I kept seeing flames. I kept thinking I would die. I kept imagining I would not wake up next time. Arletta covered her mouth again, crying silently. I stopped going to class. I failed everything. I did not want to burden the family with my fear, so I hid it. And then Dad told me the family needed more money, so I worked instead of studying. And I just quit everything. My dear friend, sometimes the strongest people in the house are the ones who cry alone. I walked to her slowly, holding her shoulders gently. Soren, sweetheart, why didn't you come to me? You know I would have held you through it. She broke down. Because I thought you were already hurting, Grandma. I saw Mama pushing you. I saw you crying when you thought nobody noticed. I saw everything. And I thought, if I added my problems too, this whole family would fall apart. Arletta sobbed harder, her face red and blotchy. Soren threw herself into my arms, holding me tight like she was trying not to drown. I held her close, feeling her body shake against mine. Arletta whispered, "Is this all my fault? Did I make everyone around me suffer because I was falling apart?" But before I could answer, Pierce stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "No, Arletta, this is my fault too. I pushed everyone. I pressured everyone. I let money and fear turn me into someone I did not want to be. And then, my dear friend, the moment that changed everything happened." Soren turned in my arms and whispered, "Grandma." There is one more thing. Something you are not going to like. Something Mama definitely will not like. Arletta's breath hitched. Soren, what now? Soren stepped back and looked at all of us with wide, frightened eyes. I am thinking of moving out. My dear friend, the room exploded with shock. Arletta cried out, move out. Move out to where? Why? You cannot just leave. Pierce looked horrified. You cannot afford that. You are not ready. But Soren's voice was quiet. I cannot breathe in this house anymore. Everyone is hurting. Everyone is fighting. Everything feels like a burden, and I am drowning here. Then she looked at me with eyes full of sorrow. Grandma, I love you, but this house is not safe for me anymore. Not emotionally, not mentally, and if I stay, I think I will break too. My dear friend, her words cut deeper than any knife. Because this time, the person threatening to leave was not angry, was not cruel, was not selfish. She was heartbroken, and the family that had been quietly collapsing for years was now seconds from shattering. My dear friend, I wish I could tell you that when Soren said she wanted to move out, the room stayed calm, but no. It was like a storm cracked open above us. The air changed. The fear in the house turned into something sharper, heavier. Arletta stumbled back into a chair, clutching the edge of the table like her legs were giving out. Move out? Soren, no. You are just scared and overwhelmed. You do not mean that. But Soren stood firm, even though her voice was shaking. Mama, I do mean it. I need space. I need peace. I cannot heal in a house that is falling apart. Pierce stepped toward her, panic in his eyes. You cannot just walk out. You are not ready. You do not even know where you would go. Soren wiped her face with trembling hands. I do know. I have been thinking about it for months. I could live with a friend for a while or find a student dorm somewhere cheaper. I need to breathe, Dad. I cannot do that here. My dear friend, right then. The fear in Arletta turned into anger. That kind of anger that comes from heartbreak, not hate. So you are going to abandon us, after everything I have done for you, after everything we have been through. Soren's voice cracked. Mama, I am not abandoning you. I am trying to save myself before I fall apart. Arletta slammed her hand on the table. So leave, then, but do not expect life to be easy. Do not expect the world to hold your hand. You think running away will fix things. Soren flinched. Grandma, she whispered, her voice breaking. Why is she yelling at me for trying to get better? My dear friend, I knew then that I had to step in, before that family destroyed itself with words none of them could ever take back. I walked between them slowly, like a thin piece of thread trying to tie a torn fabric back together. Arletta, I said softly, look at your daughter. She looked, but she looked like a woman seeing a stranger. I continued, this girl is not abandoning you. She is drowning. You are her mother, but she is your child. She is allowed to ask for air. Arletta's chin trembled violently. What about me? I am drowning too. I touched her shoulder. Then maybe it is time we all admit we need help. Not shouting, not blaming, help. But Arletta could not hear me yet. Hurt people often can't. While she cried, Pierce covered his face with both hands like a man, finally realizing the cost of every choice he made. And behind me, I heard tiny footsteps. It was little Harlan. He tugged on Soren's shirt, his small face twisted with confusion and fear. Sarai, he whispered in his 6-year-old voice, you are leaving me too. Soren dropped to her knees instantly and hugged him tight, crying into his hair. No, Harlan, I am not leaving you. I just need a place where I do not cry every night. But Harlan did not understand heartbreak. He only understood loss, and his little voice trembled. You promised you would go to my first grade party next month. You promised you would teach me how to draw superheroes. Soren sobbed harder. I will. I promise. I am not disappearing. I just need to take care of myself. But he kept crying, and my heart cracked wide open. My dear friend, do you see how pain spreads? One person breaks, then another, until even the children feel the weight of it. I placed my hand gently on Soren's back. Sweetheart, you have every right to want peace, but running away in the middle of a storm does not always bring sunshine. Sometimes it only brings thunder somewhere else. Soren whispered, Grandma, I have tried to stay strong. I have tried so hard. But every room in this house feels heavy. Every memory hurts. And I do not want to grow up angry like Mom. I do not want to crush under pressure like Dad. I do not want to become someone who forgets how to be kind. Her words hit Arletta like a slap. She grabbed her chest, gasping. Is that how you see me? Angry, crushing you, hurting you? Soren shook her head. Mama, no. I see someone who is fighting a battle alone. Someone who needs help. Someone who is scared. But I also see someone who pushes people away because she thinks she is unworthy of love. Arletta broke again, tears pouring, shoulders shaking. Soren, I never meant to hurt you, or Grandma, or anyone. But Soren's pain had turned into truth, and once truth comes out, it cannot be pushed back inside. Then her voice softened, trembling. Mama, you need help too. Not from me, not from Dad, from someone who can actually help you heal. Those words made the room still. Help. That word scared Arletta more than anything else. She whispered, help. What kind of help? Pierce lifted his head slowly, his voice low and tired. Arletta, I think she means therapy. Arletta's face drained of color. Therapy? You think I need therapy? You think something is wrong with me? Soren whispered gently, Mama, something is hurting you, and it has been for years, and it is hurting all of us too. Arletta shook her head violently. No, I am fine. I am not weak. I do not need strangers telling me how to feel. But my dear friend, the bravest thing in the world is to admit you cannot carry everything alone. And Soren said exactly that. You are not weak, you are tired, and tired people deserve help too. Arletta covered her face, sobbing, I cannot do this. I cannot be the reason my family falls apart. And Soren whispered something so soft, so painful, that I felt tears rise in my own eyes. Mama, you are not the reason the family is falling apart. You are the reason we are trying so hard to hold it together. My dear friend, the room changed. The anger melted. The noise quieted. The pain softened. But the fear stayed. Because even with all the truth finally out, one question remained in all our minds. Would Soren still leave? She stood up slowly, wiping her tears, looking around at all of us with eyes that held both love and exhaustion. I do not want to move out forever, she whispered, but I need time, just a little, to heal, to breathe, to figure myself out. Arletta whispered, shaking, how long? Soren shrugged weakly. A few weeks, a month, I do not know. Pierce sighed deeply, like his heart had deflated. And my heart squeezed tightly, because sometimes healing requires space, even from the people we love most. But just when I thought the conversation was over, just when I thought the darkest moment had passed, another voice spoke from behind us. And it was a voice none of us expected at all. Grandma, I can go with her. We all turned around. It was Harlan. Little, innocent, terrified Harlan. He wiped his tiny face and said it again with trembling courage. I can go with Soren so she is not alone. My dear friend, the room froze. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Because the next decision, the next words, were going to change the direction of our family forever. When little Harlan said he wanted to go with Soren, the whole house seemed to stop breathing. His tiny voice cracked the air like lightning. Soren stared at him in shock, her tears drying mid-fall. Arletta gasped so loudly it almost hurt to hear. Pierce stood frozen, looking like someone had slapped the world out of him. I stepped toward Harlan gently. "Sweetheart, what did you just say?" He sniffled, wiping his nose with the back of his hand like little boys do when they're trying so hard to be brave. "I want to go with Sarai so she is not lonely." Soren shook her head quickly, kneeling down to face him. "No, little man, no, you cannot go with me. You need Mama and Dad. You need this house." But Harlan stomped his tiny foot. "I need you too. You always read to me. You help me with my math. You tell me stories. You hug me when I cry. If you go somewhere else, who is going to do that for me?" "My dear friend," his words cut so deep, even Pierce stumbled. Soren pulled him into a hug, squeezing him tight. "You will still see me. I promise. I am not leaving you forever." But Harlan shook his head. "I do not want you to leave. I do not want anyone to leave. Please stay, please." Arletta burst into tears all over again. Hearing her youngest child beg like that, it shattered something in her. She rushed over, pulling Harlan into her arms and holding him like her life depended on it. "Baby, nobody is leaving you. Nobody is going away forever. Mama is right here. Daddy is right here. Grandma is right here." But Harlan cried harder, his little body shaking. "Then why is Sarai going away? Why is everyone sad? Why are we breaking?" His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't angry. It was confused. And fear in a child's voice can break even the strongest grown-ups. Pierce finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Soren, you cannot take him. He is a little boy. He needs stability. He needs us." Soren nodded, wiping tears. "I know, I would never take him. I never wanted him to feel scared. I never wanted him to think any of this is his fault." Then she looked at her mother. "Mama, this is why I need to step away. Not to run, not to abandon anyone, but so I can come back stronger. I do not want my baby brother growing up seeing me fall apart." Arletta held Harlan tighter, her face wet with tears. "And what about me? What about how much I need you?" Soren whispered softly, "Mama, you need yourself first." That sentence hung in the room like truth carved in stone. My dear friend, sometimes your own child will tell you the thing you've been running from your whole life. Arletta shook, her voice small and broken. "I do not know how to be okay again, Soren. I do not know how to fix everything I broke." Soren placed a hand on her mother's cheek. "Mama, you do not have to fix everything in one day, but you have to start. You have to stop fighting alone. That is the only way this family will survive." Right then, something changed in Arletta's eyes. Something heavy fell away, and something honest rose up. Suddenly she whispered, barely audible, "I need help. I cannot do this alone anymore." Pierce's breath caught. Soren froze. I felt my chest tighten. Because that was the moment Arletta finally surrendered. Not in defeat, but in courage. She wiped her face slowly and looked around the room as if seeing her family for the first time in years. "Pierce, I need you to help me. Mama, I need your forgiveness. Soren, I need your patience. Harlan, I need your hugs." Harlan sniffed and wrapped his arms around her neck. "I can do hugs." Arletta finally smiled through tears, and she kissed his cheek. But then she turned to Soren again, and her voice changed. "Baby, if leaving for a little while is what will help you heal, I will not stop you." Those words shook us all. Pierce stepped forward, desperate. Arletta, we can work this out together. She does not need to leave. Arletta lifted her hand, stopping him. No, Pierce, listen. She is hurting. You and I caused some of that, pressuring her, ignoring her signs, expecting too much. And she swallowed all of it just to keep this family from sinking. She needs space to breathe. And if we truly love her, we have to let her go so she can become the woman she is meant to be. Soren broke down crying again. Mama, I do not want to hurt you. Arletta pulled her into a long, trembling hug. Baby, letting you go is the hardest thing I will ever do. But holding on to you when you're suffocating, that would hurt us more. My dear friend, that moment healed something deep and old between them. But as soon as they pulled apart, a new tension rose. Pierce's voice lowered. So what happens now? Do you leave tomorrow, tonight? Soren looked at me, and I felt something heavy settle in my heart. Grandma, can I stay with you tonight? Just for one night. I don't want to pack alone. I don't want to cry alone. Arletta looked at me sharply, fear flickering in her eyes again. Mama, are you taking her away from me too? I shook my head gently. No, I am giving her a safe place for one night. After that, you two will decide together what comes next. Arletta closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Then nodded. Soren wiped her face again. I just need to think, to breathe, to rest. Pierce swallowed hard, and after she rests, what happens? Soren took a slow breath. Tomorrow, I want us to talk about everything, with no yelling, no secrets, no guilt. Arletta nodded. But just when things started to calm, when the storm seemed to quiet, when hope began to settle, Soren's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, looked at the screen, and her entire body went stiff. Her face went pale, her mouth opened slightly. Soren, I whispered, sweetheart, what is it? She showed me the screen. My dear friend. What I saw. What she showed me. It froze my blood. Grandma, she whispered, shaking. I think someone followed me home from campus. And they just sent me a message. My dear friend, that message would change the entire story. And nothing in this family would ever be the same again. My dear friend, I want you to buckle your heart, because everything that had been quietly building, every fear, every tension, every wound, was about to collide in one powerful, life-changing moment. When Soren showed me her phone, her hand was shaking so badly I had to steady it with mine. On the screen was a message from an unknown number. It said only 4 words. I know your secret. My dear friend, those words chilled me to the bone. Arletta rushed forward. What secret? What is that? Who sent that? Soren breathed shakily. I don't know. I blocked everyone from campus months ago. I don't talk to anyone, I do. Pierce grabbed the phone gently. It might be a scam. It might be nothing. But Soren shook her head hard. No, look. There was another message. I followed you home. Arletta screamed, actually screamed. A raw, terrified sound. I stepped forward, instinct taking over. Soren, did this happen before? Has someone contacted you like this before? Her voice was barely a whisper. Yes, but I thought it would stop when I left campus. I didn't know they found out where we lived. My dear friend, sometimes danger doesn't come from loud threats. Sometimes it comes from the silence of someone watching. Arletta grabbed her daughter's arms. You should have told me. Why didn't you tell me? Why? Soren cried out, because I thought you already had too much on your plate. You weren't even looking at me anymore. You were drowning in your own life. Pierce stiffened. We are calling the police. Right now. This is not normal. This is not safe. But before he could dial, Soren's phone buzzed again. Another message. Are you alone? My heart stopped. Pierce didn't hesitate. He dialed 911, his voice low and firm. But before the dispatcher even answered, a car engine sounded outside. Not just driving by. Stopping. Right in front of the house. Arletta gasped and grabbed Harlan, who clung to her shirt like a kitten shaking in a storm. Soren froze completely, her breath rapid and shallow. I held her close, ready to shield her with everything I had left in this old body. Pierce peeked through the blinds. His face went pale. There's someone sitting in the car, he whispered. Just sitting. Not moving. The dispatcher answered, and he explained everything quickly, urgently, voice shaking. But Soren's phone buzzed again. Come outside. Arletta's knees buckled. No, she is not going anywhere. She is not opening that door. Soren clutched my arm. Grandma, I'm scared. And my dear friend, let me tell you something with all the wisdom my 77 years can carry. Fear makes you freeze. Courage makes you shake. But love makes you stand up anyway. I stepped forward. No one is opening this door. No one is facing anyone alone. And then I saw something through the window. The car door opened. A young man stepped out, wearing a dark jacket, hands in his pockets, standing under the street lamp like a shadow peeled off the night. Soren whimpered, Grandma, that's him. I saw him in the hallway the night of the fire. He stared at me when everyone was running. I thought he lived in the building, but after that night, he kept showing up. In the library, in the cafeteria, behind the parking lot. Arletta sobbed. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were breaking, Mama, Soren cried out. I didn't want to give you one more thing to worry about. Pierce went to the door, locking every bolt, every chain, every latch. Police are on the way, he said shakily. 10 minutes. But my dear friend, 10 minutes is a long time when danger is standing at your doorstep. The young man reached into his pocket. Arletta screamed again, get away from the window. But as I grabbed Soren to pull her back, that young man held something up. A folded piece of paper. He placed it gently on the hood of the car, as if offering something. Then he stepped back. Pierce whispered, what in the world? And then, he got into his car, closed the door, and slowly drove off into the night. No chasing. No yelling. No dramatic confrontation. Just gone. Police arrived minutes later. They checked the street. Checked the yard. Checked the cameras. Then Pierce went outside to grab the folded paper with gloves the officer gave him. He placed it on the kitchen table. We all stared at it like it was a ticking bomb. The officer nodded. Go ahead, open it. Pierce unfolded it carefully. My dear friend, you won't believe what was inside. A photograph. A photograph of Soren. Taken at night. From outside the window of her dorm room. And written on the back, in messy handwriting. You saved my life. I only wanted to say thank you. Silence. Shock. Confusion. The officer sighed. Sometimes it's not a threat. Sometimes it's someone unstable who created a fantasy in their head. Someone who thinks they owe you something. Or think you owe them something. Soren shook violently. But why follow me? Why scare me? The officer answered gently. Because people like him don't understand boundaries. They think fear means interest. They mistake silence for connection. He looked at her kindly. But he's gone now, and we'll file a report so you're protected if he ever comes back. Soren nodded, breathing hard. They left eventually. The house grew quiet again. But something had changed. The danger had shaken us awake. Pierce whispered, "I could have lost you." Arletta hugged her daughter like she was hugging sunlight. And then Soren turned to me. "Grandma, can I still stay with you tonight?" I cupped her face. "Sweetheart, you can stay as long as you need." And for the first time in months, maybe years, Soren smiled softly. A tired smile. A broken smile. But a real one. Later that night, after everyone went to sleep, Soren sat beside me on the couch, leaning her head on my shoulder. "Grandma," she whispered, "do you think we will ever be okay again?" I took her hand gently. "My dear friend, this is what I told her. Families break. Families bend. Families fall apart. But when people finally speak their truth, when love becomes louder than fear, when healing begins, families can rise again." The next morning, Arletta signed up for therapy. Pierce apologized, with actions, not words. And Soren decided to stay home longer, not out of fear, but because home finally felt safe again. And as for me, I didn't win with shouting. I didn't win with revenge. I didn't win with anger. I won with quiet strength, the kind that grows after 77 years of surviving storms. My dear friend, before you go, if you want more stories like this, more emotional journeys, more powerful lessons, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. Your support helps me bring more stories to life. Thank you for staying until the end. And remember, no family is perfect, but every family can find its way back to love.